Hey, Jeff.
How are you?
Good. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Thanks.
Awesome. Apologize for the reschedule. Things were a bit messy that day, so
Sure.
appreciate
Yeah, yeah.
right.
This has been a
And
long time coming, right?
yeah,
I
yeah,
know I had to cancel once too, so not a problem.
living through back-to-back Zoom meetings is it's fun. Well,
Yeah.
not really.
Yeah, yeah. The time, sign of the
Awesome.
times, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization and what you're passionate about, and we'll go from there.
Sure, sure. Well, so my name again, Jeff Weiss. I'm the VP of Innovation and Product Development for Bemis Manufacturing. Bemis is really, we're a kind of five businesses in one. We have five separate business units. One is bathroom products, which include anything from toilet seats and bidets to bath safety, aging in place, and things to help handicapped people with their mobility in the bathroom. We have a second division, which is our Bemis Healthcare division, which gets involved in um, kind of emergency room type settings and certain things used in those types of settings. We have our Kelch division, which really does air and fluid handling, very heavy in gas and diesel engines and things of that nature. We have a retail solutions group. And then finally, our contract manufacturing, which really allows us to take a lot of our core competencies and apply them for outside clients and outside customers. Things I'm passionate about, well, kind of goes with the title, obviously innovation, but what really drives me is innovation and new product development and how it ties to the growth and advancement of the businesses. So I really love seeing our product segments expand and seeing our capabilities expand, and then seeing how that influences both the top line and bottom line, and just seeing how powerful an influence that can have on that growth.
Very cool. So, have you always been in the innovation space, or is this is this the first time you've been in the innovation space with a company?
No, no, no. So I've always been in some degree of innovation, engineer by education. So cut my teeth developing products. I've done basically all aspects of engineering. So I would say through the various companies I've worked at, I've done anything from innovation to product development to uh, current product type activities. So a very wide breadth of experience over the years, but a lot of focus on innovation.
So, would you say that you actually came from new product development, which is kind of like innovation, right? I mean,
Yeah, very well, very similar. Very similar. I think one of the challenges is too often people group new product development and innovation together, and there's some traps with that. I mean, obviously, they innovation in new product development is important, but I would say new product development is more it's more working with what you know. It's more predictable. It's in new product development, you're really at a point where you understand your risks, you understand the technology, and you're making a commitment to the organization on what exactly it is you're delivering. Innovation, by contrast, innovation is I like to say it's working with a lot of the unknown. It's a lot of it's high risk, high reward. Um, the right innovative culture has an understanding of that and a tolerance for that. But the idea with innovation is really that you're working on trying to mitigate the risks. You have this new technology or this new opportunity that you're working with, but there's a lot of unknowns, and it's something you would categorize as high risk. So in innovation, really your focus is, again, trying to get a technology or a concept to a point where you can then take it to your organization and sell it to them and say, you know what, now let's invest some true capital into this and make it happen. Too often what happens are companies, and I've seen this many times, companies intertwine the two. And, so somebody from engineering comes with this new innovative concept and says, all right, great, when are we going to be in production? And what happens is you start getting into that trap, and you're so focused on developing a product and speed to market and things like that, that you're truly not letting that technology develop and mitigate the risks like you should.
So you're making me think that new product development is like a need and innovation is a want. Is that an
Well,
accurate
yeah,
assessment?
yeah, right. So one of the things I do is I make sure that to really segregate the two, right? And innovation is, like I said, the key to innovation is really driving a concept to a point where it's viable. And what I tell people here is, think of it like you're an inventor and you're in your shop or your basement or whatever, and you're working on this concept. And obviously it's very easy to fall in love with a concept or an idea, but ultimately what you need to do is create a business case for it. You need to understand the market. You need to understand how much you can make it for, what you can sell it for, who's going to buy it. You need to understand that fundamental business case, and then treat it like you're going out and seeking that investor. You're seeking that person who's now going to finance your opportunity here. And so often that's where the disconnect occurs. So you certainly don't want to stifle creativity, but you do need to have some boundaries, and you do need to have some deliverables, and ultimately it's that business case. So when you look at our portfolios, for instance, for any of our given businesses, you have very distinct differences between your innovation funnel and your new product development funnel. On the new product development funnel, like I said earlier, that's where you're typically asking for the big money. You're asking for capital tooling. You're asking the organization to make a very big commitment to the product. And then in return, you're committing to a certain business case by a certain time. Innovation, really what you're doing is you're identifying those key risks that stand between this idea and success, and you're mitigating those risks. And your deliverable at the conclusion of an innovation project is then something that you can say, now invest in this and I will develop you a product that's going to be a winner. The other deliverable that comes though is knowledge and just what you learn from that, because again, the failure rate is high. So oftentimes you'll take something and you might shelve it at a given time, or you might just kill it altogether. But you'll often run into cases where you'll look and say, you know what, the technology just isn't ready yet, or we're not ready to move forward on this. So we're going to put it on the shelf, let it, and maybe revisit it at a later time after we've had an opportunity to maybe gain some more market knowledge or whatever the case may be.
Well, so it sounds like it's a flow, right? I mean, it
Yep.
starts off as an innovation, and then if it meets certain guidelines, then it'll slide into new product development. If it goes through these, it's almost like a stage gate thing, right? It's like we come up with, we invent this idea, and then we run it through all these gates, and eventually we decide, okay, is this something we're going to actually move forward with? And then it goes into the new product development process. Is that right?
That makes perfect sense, right? Yeah. So really, yeah, so that's exactly right. I mean, I would say innovation doesn't follow your traditional gated process, because then what you're doing is you're forcing an idea. And again, if innovation is not ready to be put into a product development schedule, what happens is that's where you fall into that circular spiral where you're just investing good money after bad.
Yeah, the doom spiral, or
The doom spiral, right? You're trying to keep an idea alive because you're so invested in it that you have no other choice, and that's the true trapping that, you know, I think we've all seen it. You know, and it's not unfortunately not very uncommon. So it's you know, one of the things that we've done here is, you know, put some very firm expectations in place so that you do have a calibrated gate, like you said, a calibrated decision point where you say, okay, you know, the idea is we're going to either fail fast or we're going to move it on to the next step. So yeah, I think it's really, again, not meant to stifle creativity, but just put a framework and a set of expectations around it.
Well, so I'm interested in what kind of tactics you use to help generate ideas. I'm assuming you
Sure.
have ideation sessions or brainstorming sessions where you just sort of toss some ideas around. Are there any particular tactics that you use that you find are more effective than others?
Sure, definitely. So what we have for each of our business units is we have individual innovation councils, and we meet quite regularly. And so there's team sites that I've set up where basically we use it for idea capture first off. So it's like a perpetual brainstorming where, you know, if somebody's in the field, somebody's talking, somebody sees something new, somebody has an idea, there's an area where we can capture those types of ideas, and they can come from anywhere within the organization. So first off, we have this running kind of perpetual brainstorming list for each area, and then what we do is we meet very regularly to assess these ideas and see, you know, kind of prioritize them and see what warrants maybe taking a further look, or, you know, looking at something that we might want to dive into a little further. And what I try to do is, like I said, keep a good balance where a certain amount of our project activity is related to innovation. So I like to make sure we have a number of innovation type activities going on at any given time. And that, you know, each engineering and each person within the engineering department has that opportunity to have a kind of a diversity in what they're working on. So then the idea is that we put together, when we select an idea, then there is an actual process that we go through that's pretty cool. And, you know, it starts with really taking the idea and forming it in terms of a challenge. You know, I think that everything starts with that upfront definition of what it is you're trying to accomplish, and you want to not make it restricting, but you want to make it such that it gives people a direction on you know, what it is we're trying to accomplish. You know, so, you know, and I think that everything starts with, you know, if you ask a group of smart people any question, ultimately they're going to give you some form of an answer. You know, they're all, you know, smart people. So it starts with giving them the right challenge. Then from there, we sit down and we go through a rather extensive process where we lock ourselves in a room and we start by outlining exactly what it is we know about that given challenge. We understand, you know, what do we know about competitive opportunities or competitive challenges? What do we know about unmet needs that might exist? Anything we might know about the market, anything we might know about the technology, and we just whiteboard that. We document everything we know and just state the facts. Then from there, we go through kind of I like to call it a divergent convergent process. Pretty common word to innovation, but we go through a process where we have all these facts sitting in front of us, and what we do is we just start individually burning through Post-it notes with different ideas, different features, different ideas, different thoughts, and we just fireball that. Just do as much as we can, come up with generating as many ideas and getting outside of the box as far as we can in our thought process, and then take that and stick it along common themes, and from there create common themes amongst these ideas that people come up with, and from that we are able to develop what we feel are a good set of features. And that's where the convergent aspect comes in. We start to bring everything, ground everything, but understand, what solutions, what potential solutions, what potential features could exist to address this particular challenge. And then we go through and basically rank those and understand what are the top 5 or 6 features or needs that we think really could make this a game changer. Then we usually break up and go out and do some competitive scanning, see what's out there, see what else is out there, and come back with some good feedback on what other people are doing and who we feel the biggest competition might be in a given area. And then we start to formulate our ideas based on what we've learned, and from that come up with ideas that we think could be game changers in a given market, and making sure that all the time on those top 5 or 6 features we offer the best solution or the best opportunity. And then from there you really start to have some pretty cool product ideas take shape. It starts to kind of drive people to a focused product or a common idea on what we think could be a winner. And I would say it's worked well. We've come up with some pretty neat things going through this.
At that point, does it become is it actually a prototype then, or is it a deck, or?
So,
and then,
yeah, so that's a great question. So typically what will happen is, yes, more often than not, what we'll do is we'll prototype something, and it's usually pretty rough at that point. I mean, we've used
what they say, the rougher the prototype, the better, the more optimistic or positive results you'll get back from the people you see. Because if it's too refined, they'll just come back with negative feedback. But if it's kind of really early, then they'll actually give you more positive feedback. At least that's what I've heard.
Right. Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah. What happens is we come up with something that that's kind of a proof of concept, but a lot of it is really something that's going to help you reinforce the beliefs that you've developed up to that point. So it's one thing, again, it's one thing to come up with your own idea and fall in love with it. It's another thing to get potential customers to fall in love with it. And so what we do is try to come up with, more often than not, it's an actual physical representation, but sometimes it's a rendering, whatever the case may be, but something then that you can use to go out and collect good VOC and really understand and get that feedback to reinforce what your thoughts are, and really reinforce the business case. And it goes a long way at that point. And then when you get to that point, then the step from innovation to product development, or actually introducing a product, goes so seamless, because you've done so much preparation to position yourself for success in that area.
Do you actually, after you've built this prototype, do you bring customers in? Do you do some design thinking type sessions at that point, or is this a little too early?
No, after that prototype is done and we're feeling pretty confident directionally, we'll typically either take it to them or have them look at it. In the days of COVID, it's been a bit of a challenge, so we've had to rethink.
Oh yeah, it's just like on a Zoom call. Here you go. What do you think?
Right, exactly. But we've got some good partnerships that really help give us good feedback. So.
And then do you do like this, the typical design thinking approach where you just like throw the prototype to them and say, have them just comment on it? Or I mean, do you do any specific tactics there, or is it just like standardized?
Well, it depends. It depends on the circumstance. Typically, again, so when you're talking about innovation and you talk about the risks related to innovation, so often people get caught in the trap of believing that every risk is technical in nature. And really that's not the case. While there are always a lot of technical risks, more often it's understanding the market, understanding the sales potential, understanding customer acceptance, and so that's in a large part at this phase, that's what you're trying to find out. You're really trying to get that unbiased feedback that says, hey, this is great, but if you did this, or did you think of this, or what about this? It's really VOC is so key. VOC is so key, whether it's NPD or innovation. But before you can commit to a good NPD project, you really need strong VOC. And so by using this innovation methodology, you then enter the NPD phase with so much VOC, and you're so well armed for moving forward.
Have you ever had like a product that was like so loved internally, but then once it hit the customer, it was a total flop, and
Yep.
vice versa?
Yes, and not here, in a past life. In a past life, I've had that many times, which has in a large part really helped me to get into this mindset. But I can think, earlier in my career, I can think of a couple of instances where, you have, we've had some technological advances that we thought were just so cool, that this, who wouldn't love this? Who wouldn't love this? And so you move forward with it with totally losing sight of VOC, or losing sight of getting any sort of customer feedback. And then that's where you fall into that trap. So, in your standard gated process, you get through gate 3, you've got this finalized product, and gate 4, you're supposed to be manufacturing it or getting ready for that. And you find yourself in this, that doom loop that you referred to, because it just, it wasn't as accepted as you thought it would be. And it's easy to fall in love with an idea. If you fall in love with an idea, you patent the idea, and emotions, obviously run high, and sometimes it'd be tough to kill those ideas. So we've all
Oh, yeah.
seen that.
You're so vested and you love it so much, but the customer's like, what?
Right. So yeah, I unfortunately, have lived through that, and school of
Do you
hard
ever
knocks.
do you ever bring the customers in at the very beginning of the process, like the true design thinking, where you just like, you don't even have a concept, you just say, hey, a bunch of customers, prospects, yourselves in a room, let's ideate and come up with something. Have you ever done that?
Sure, we definitely do focus groups, and VOC is such a significant part of what we do, and we're always looking for customer feedback. So you asked a little bit about where ideas come from. One of the other key focuses for any organization is to truly understand their product segments, and understand their current products as well as future opportunities. And so as such, that gives you really good opportunity to do customer focus groups and things like that, to get some feedback and understand what truly is important to them. And that can be a really good source of innovative focus. If you can find, the golden nugget is always when you find a need that the customer doesn't even realize they have, and you can satisfy that need, and that's a true game changer. So yeah, we definitely put a lot of energy into that, and that's something I've done in past lives as well, and it definitely works well.
So do you find it sounds as if your organization is pretty innovative? So a lot of
Yes.
stuff actually does get through the process. I mean, do you find that there are any barriers that you've come up against that you've had to try and defeat? And how did you do that?
Well, I think that in any organization, it starts with culture, and you look at any organization, and there are definitely um, strong cultures that exist that create certain biases or certain opinions. You have it, that's not the way we've always done it type mentality, and so it really, a lot of it starts with creating a culture of innovation and understanding that you can't rest on what you've always done. And so I would say we've been pretty successful in driving that, but it can be a huge barrier at the very beginning. There is no doubt.
So that's part of your role, right? Is to sort of evangelize innovation in the
Yep.
organization.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, definitely.
Do you have any ways that are especially effective that you could share?
Well, I think number one, success breeds success. So, I think the first step for any organization, is really to develop a strong funnel, a strong innovation funnel, or a funnel of opportunities. Because in the absence of that, what companies find themselves doing is let's just do something, let's do something and let's do it fast, and it's kind of the scattergun approach, where the preferred approach is really to fill to develop more opportunity than you have resources to achieve. And then what that it does is it allows you to become very selective in what you work on, and so you can make sure you're working on the right things. But the other thing that a very strong funnel does is it sends the message to the organization that you've been very thoughtful in your approach, and that they look at it, and it starts to buy you some credibility. When they see the quality of the projects that you're working on and the selection process for those projects, it buys you that credibility and takes some of that pressure off again to, just do something. That's really the biggest key that I can say. And then of course from there, you do need to make sure that you have a good focus on the innovation funnel, such that everything you're working on isn't perpetual motion, that you have some winners in there, and some success, because again, like I said, success breeds success. And once people start to see the methodology and the system work, then they start to really buy in and have more faith in it.
Yeah, I love this concept of the innovation funnel because this is the second time that I've talked to somebody who's suggested it, because it's also very understandable, especially for people who understand the sales funnel, right? I mean, you've got your
Right,
prospects up
right.
here and you funnel them into customers, and it's kind of the same for innovation, right? If you could just take that same model and use
Yeah.
it, then I think
Yep.
that's really effective. So that's really cool. Did you come up with that, or?
The innovation funnel.
Yep.
No, I think that's probably. I'd love to take credit for it, but no, that's a term that's been out there for some time. But yeah, it's But I will say, I think that's any healthy organization has a strong innovation funnel, or a strong set of new opportunities, or opportunities to find adjacencies and opportunities to expand their product offering. And that's one of the things, of course, we're always looking to do.
So you guys are a manufacturing company. Do you have 3D printers, and are you playing with that cool new tech to
Oh,
be able
most
to just
definitely.
create stuff on demand?
Sure. Yes. Yes. So our core competency as a manufacturer is really plastic injection molding, and we do some wood compression molding as well. But plastic injection molding is really what we're recognized for. And so as such, yeah, we do a lot of rapid prototyping. We have, as a part of our engineering lab, we have dedicated research presses and things like that. And obviously material science is a huge part of what we do. So yeah, we've got some cool stuff.
You guys are on the cutting edge of this stuff then. You're building, you've got the latest and greatest tech when it comes to manufacturing.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great point. So that is one of the challenges for us is, when you talk innovation, so often you become singularly focused on a product. But for us, innovation is also very much about the processes as well, and making sure we stay on the cutting edge. So yeah, you're right. We're pretty active in that area as well.
So I'm assuming manufacturing is kind of going through a sort of like a huge disruption right now with everything that's going on and sort of cheap 3D printers and all that stuff. I mean, how has that affected your space?
Well, from our space, not really. I mean, when you talk about a lot of the 3D printing and things like that, you're talking about low volume and very customized things. And so when you talk about that, we do it more on a proof of concept and prototyping space. But from a production space, we're very much into automation and differentiating ourselves through the press technology that we have and things of that nature. So we really haven't been seriously impacted by a lot of the rapid prototyping technology.
Yeah, because it makes me think that at some point in the future, you guys will end up just being an IP shop and you'll be creating designs and then you'll be farming it out to your customers to actually build in their own printers. Do you see that as a possibility?
Well, I think 3D printing is something you need to stay abreast of it, because there are so many opportunities on, again, at this state in the game, a lot of, lower volume type runs and things of that nature. A lot of what we do is so specialized that 3D printing wouldn't be a viable alternative yet.
Right. So you'd be able to make the parts, but you wouldn't be able to make the thing out of whole cloth. Like it wouldn't be possible.
No, right. No, it wouldn't be at this point. It's not, it's something, again, we have 3D printing capability here within our engineering department, but as far as an influencer of our business, it's again, we stay on the cutting edge, and we will make sure we stay on the cutting edge. And if there is some point where that might become a viable alternative to some of the manufacturing processes we do, by all means, we would look at it. But as of right now, that's not been an issue.
Okay. So when somebody says to you, "Oh, that's an interesting product, but what's the ROI, or what's the ROI of innovation?" What do you usually respond with?
When you ask about the ROI on innovation, so really, I think, I guess I'll start with answering it this way. When you look at our innovation portfolio, or what we're actively working on, one of the first questions is, what's the market size for that particular area that you're exploring? So it starts with market size. And then, like I said, and then from there it starts with, the next step is to really assess the competitive landscape. And then from there, you get a good feel for what kind of percentage market share you might want to take. And it really gets down to a question of, what's your confidence? If we can enter this market and gain 10% market share in the first 2 years, you have a good feel that the payback would be pretty good. And that's just one example. But obviously we'd like to be a market leader in everything we enter into. But you need to understand the market size, and what conservatively what kind of share you would need to make it a viable opportunity. And if it doesn't pass that litmus test, usually we'll shelf it, pretty quickly. Again, can't fall in love with an idea if you're not going to be able to sell it. So
It's interesting. It sounds like you're very pragmatic or very practical about it. It's like if there's a market there and there's a market that we can identify and there's a size of a market, then we can go for it. You've never, how often do you ever have a situation where you go, well, we have no idea how big this market is? I mean, because a lot of times that's what ends up happening is that you don't really know if there's a market for anything. And have you done that at all, or it sounds like you're very pragmatic about it?
No, that's a really good question. So there have been, and we have some active opportunities today that we work on where it's purely a focus on trying to advance your technology, and it's trying to understand what the limits are of a given technology and what needs to be done to expand that. And so there are certainly, I mean, you can never, that's one of the other traps on the flip side of what I've been talking about, is you become so constrained in your innovation process that you stifle creativity or stifle that growth. So no, there are instances where we will look at something because we understand that it's advancing our technology, and we'll continue to push on it. But even there, you do need to have some deliverable, though. At the end of the day, there needs to be some decision point so that it doesn't just become a perpetual resource drain, for the next 5 years.
So your innovation group wouldn't be the guys goofing around with drones and IoT devices, right?
No, I wouldn't say that. I think anybody who says that they're not, I think IoT is so key to everything these days that
Well, IoT maybe, but drones, if you think about it, I mean, there's a lot of innovation groups that it's almost like, oh, we get to play with all the cool toys, and they don't really generate anything, but you get to play with cool toys and generate stuff, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think definitely.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, so let's talk. Think like a futurist. So it's the year 2031, 10 years from now. What's your world going to be like?
Yeah, that's that's an interesting question. I was reading something where we're really kind of in our fourth industrial revolution right now with everything going on. So you think about that, you think about just the speed of information and the amount of information transfer and information and data that's available to everybody on a daily basis. And I think one focus is going to be very much on just the ability to process and do something with data very rapidly. I think is going to be a huge competitive advantage for individuals as well as any business. I think, velocity, the velocity in which things are developed and the velocity in which information is available to people is going to be so critical. The days of the annual health checkup, for instance, are going to become a thing of the past, and you're going to understand your health trends on a continual basis. So, and the same can be said for the health of your vehicles or the health of your home. Information is just so critical to everybody, and people have they've developed such a want for that information so quickly. It used to be that you'd go on vacation and have your neighbor check on your sump pump or your furnace, every week. And now you just pull up your phone and look at it, and that's only going to increase, it's only going to increase, but it's going to become far more predictive. You're not only going to know whether your car has failed, you're going to be able to predict when that's going to occur just based on the trend monitoring of the data that's available. So I think that's going to be so key. You talked about the Internet of Things, that goes hand in hand. I think people expect such immediate feedback, and that's only going to increase. as time goes on. Sensor technology is such a rapidly growing field, and what people expect and the things that people expect to know so immediately is just going to continue to increase. Artificial intelligence, and you look at the investments going on in artificial intelligence, that's going to push us to thresholds that, unimaginable thresholds. Nanotechnology, in everything, I think nanotechnology is going to become increasingly significant and tied into a lot of the things we've talked about up to this point. Green technology is going to become a very significant area. Energy storage, just the way energy is managed, and the challenges that people have faced up to this point. And recycling, reuse. We're rapidly becoming a point where you not only think of how you build your product or what your product is, but what does end of life look like, and how renewable or recyclable is it, reusable rather, is it? We talked about medical care and the fact that, again, the days of going to the doctor are going to come, quickly become an obsolete thing, because we're going to have such real-time information being provided to us. And then finally, the last thing I think of is really just the way the workplace and the working world is going to change. We've gotten a little bit of a taste of that with the COVID challenge here, and I think that's only accelerated the way that the environment is going to change, and how people interact is going to change. So it's going to be an interesting, wild next 10 years, I think. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Do you think in 2031 we're going to have a situation where you go to the bathroom and then you get a call from your doctor saying, "Hey, we've just found something"? I mean, is that interconnected?
I think anything is possible. Yes, I think that
because we already have the Apple Watch where if you're on your bike and you have a spill, they could call 911 for you automatically, or if it detects you're having a heart attack, it could help call 911. It's not really that much of a far stretch to think 10 years from now. I mean, 10 years ago, Facebook wasn't even here, right? Or something like that.
Right. Yeah, it's scary to think, exciting and scary to think, what the next 10 years are going to hold. But yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. And for those who have, aging family members or things like that, and just the ways that you're going to have available to you to monitor and be very interactive on a daily basis with them, it's going to be so great. But people with health conditions and medical conditions, and just the feedback that's already available, to your point, and going to only continue to grow. It's going to be
so you guys don't make smart mirrors, right? So that I can look at myself in the mirror in the morning and it'll go, "Hey, you're looking a little peaked. You should eat B12 or something like that." Right.
Yeah. Definitely.
So you're not working on that just yet, but soon.
I got to keep some secrets from you, right?
Awesome. Well, this has been really cool. Thank you so much. This has been great. So if somebody wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
Well, you can certainly reach me on, I'm very active on LinkedIn. So, Jeffrey Weiss, it's pretty easy to find. Otherwise, that's probably, the best way to reach out to me individually. And,
okay. Very cool. Well, I'll put all your information in the show notes. So if somebody wants to get in touch with you, they can do it from there. So thanks so much. It was very interesting. Talk to you soon.
Talking to you, Chris. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye.